In 1966, Batman's popularity extended beyond television. An entire cultural phenomenon had emerged. The much-anticipated film finally debuted in theaters, introducing audiences to Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin. The film's popularity skyrocketed. It became a campy classic, and audiences flocked to the theaters. Behind all the fun and games, though, there was some imperfection. There were problems with the cast, with the production, and with one scene in particular that went too far. It was slashed and stashed for over 60 years. Come with us as we reminisce about Batman 1966, its characters, its mysteries, and the scene that disappeared. Batman, the film, came into being. Batman was a phenomenon all across the globe in 1966, not simply on television. The audience adored Adam West's noble, campy Batman and Burt Ward's enthusiastic Robin. Therefore, viewers received something even more substantial, Batman in a feature film. When the first season of the TV show concluded, Leslie H. Martinson directed the picture, which is also called Batman the Movie. The vibrant spirit, design, and even bad electronics were all straight lifted from the TV series. Only 2 months following the final episode of Season 1, the film was released. It seemed to the crowd like an even bigger and brighter version of what they adored before. Producer William Dozier had the idea for the film long before the series premiered. He had always wanted to make a Batman feature. Studio officials first turned down the project out of concern that making the film would be too dangerous. However, the studio swiftly reversed its decision after the TV show's meteoric rise to fame. Production started shortly after the idea was announced in March 1966 by Variety magazine. The script was written in just 10 days by writer Lorenzo Semple Jr., who was also an employee on the show. Production began in April and finished just 28 days later. Quick, entertaining, and made to cash in on the Batman craze. That was its purpose. But what really caught people off guard was the abundance of famous faces, antagonists, and even some surprising plot twists that will be talked about for years to come. The actors and actresses of an era were the catalyst for these shifts. Actor Adam West assumed the mantle of Batman. Bruce Wayne, for example, could be amusing at times while maintaining an air of seriousness in his speech. Burt Ward brought a youthful vigor to the roles of Robin and Dick Grayson, always prepared to take action. The movie's villains, though, were its shining stars. Cesar Romero gave the Joker his signature laugh. As the Penguin, Burgess Meredith left an indelible impression with his screeching voice and cigarette holder. Riddler, played by Frank Gorshin, was crazy and naughty, and he kept the audience guessing. Then the Catwoman turn arrived. Viewers of the show were accustomed to seeing Julie Newmar don the Black Cat suit, but the actress was unable to reprise the role for the film owing to prior obligations and a subsequent back injury. Meriwether Lee stepped in to fill her shoes instead. In addition to her Catwoman mask, she portrayed the role of Kitka, the enigmatic Soviet journalist. Meriwether claims that although it was difficult, she found her own unique way to embody Julie Newmar. Also making a triumphant return were other cast members. Actors Alan Napier, Neil Hamilton, Stafford Rep, and Madge Blake star as Aunt Harriet, Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, and Alan Napier, respectively. From foreign delegates to Navy officers, even the supporting cast was full of famous figures. Every performer in the film, a veritable who's who of Gotham City, embraced the campy fun that is Batman's approach. The film was entertaining overall, but it did have its share of strange moments. Blunders and decisions that were notable for more than one reason. Not even the story itself could disprove that. The comical escapade starts. The film didn't hesitate to put Batman and Robin in peril. It all began with a rescue mission, the yacht of Commodore Schmidlap, and arguably Batman's most iconic scene. The yacht disappeared as Batman descended the Batladder. As onlookers gasped in shock, a shark snatched his leg. As the fabled bat shark repelling spray was used by Batman to defeat it. The tone for the film's campy enjoyment was set by the shark's explosion. However, the villains were not being subtle. In order to form the united underworld, the Joker, Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman banded together. They took Schmidlap hostage, stole his dehydrator technology that could reduce humans to dust, and set up shop in a penguin-shaped submarine. With the help of their gadgets, the Batcopter and the Batboat, Batman and Robin battled back. A ludicrous detail that made viewers chuckle was when a dolphin sacrificed itself to defend them from a torpedo. One of the film's most surprising turns occurred when Kitka, Catwoman's disguise, fell off, crushing Batman's heart. She had deceived Wayne into falling for her. Plus, the iconic bomb scene. Who could forget it? Batman, brandishing a massive bomb, dashed around the docks, urgently seeking a secure location to discard it. But nuns, a marching band, and a baby carriage were everywhere he looked, so he stopped. With the iconic remark, "Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb," he finally succeeded in disarming it. The famous picture was made possible by its blend of action, comedy, and pure absurdity, but it was also marred by errors, strange effects, and scenes that some thought went too far. For decades, no one dared to look at one scene because of how striking it was. First showing, financial success, and mystery solving. The film had its world debut in Austin, Texas's Paramount Theater on July 30th, 1966. Not only was it a Batman film, but Austin's Glastron Company had created the Batboat that played a significant role in the film, so it was doubly noteworthy. They paid with ease. Their hometown would host the premiere of the film. Actors Adam West, Cesar Romero, and Lee Meriwether were among the guests interviewed by KTBC's Gene Boone at the event. Advertised the film. The picture did decently well at the box office. It wasn't a box office smash, but it did enough to keep viewers enthralled with Batman from Season 1 until Season 2. What made the debut so memorable was the excitement, the enthusiasm of the spectators, and the joy that the cast exuded. But the film's eccentricities were the true force that kept it relevant in popular culture. The film was a wild roller coaster of a ride, with villains transforming ambassadors into dust and Batman creating a supermolecular dust splitter to save them. Despite all the joy, one moment was suppressed and kept under wraps for 59 years. An incident that was so out of the ordinary and divisive that it faded into oblivion. Fans may now witness Batman 1966 in a manner never before seen, as it has emerged after a long absence of decades. It is at that rediscovery scene that the plot thickens. Batman on the small screen and in the home. Even after it left theaters in 1966, the 1966 Batman film continued to have an impact. On July 5, 1971, during ABC's Sunday Night Movie, the film was initially broadcasted by the TV network ABC, which had previously aired the Batman television series. People watched, so much so that the picture was re-released on September 5th of the same year. After then, Batman 66 became something that moviegoers would remember from the theater and be able to enjoy in the comfort of their own homes. The film was breathed new life as the years passed thanks to home video. The picture first aired on Playhouse Video's VHS and Betamax systems in 1985. Many people's first opportunity to own Batman memorabilia came from growing up watching the show. However, the tale was far from over. After the 1989 Batman film became a global hit, an executive at Blockbuster Video wondered why it hadn't been re-released during all the excitement. As a result of this inquiry, CBS Fox Video re-released Batman 66 in 1989, bringing it new interest. When Fox Video released it again in 1994, it happened again. A new generation might enjoy Batman in the 2000s. The film had a DVD release in 2001 and a Blu-ray and DVD reissue on July 1st, 2008, both distributed by 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. More and more people started seeing the film in various formats. Batman, Adam West, and Robin, Burt Ward, were irresistible. Batman went in darker ways on screen, but the campy pleasure of the 1966 film remained. But the most important thing was the reception the film had during its initial release, not the formats or re-releases. The achievement in the theaters. Fans went into a frenzy to see the July 30th, 1966 debut of Batman. Fox records show that in order to break even, the picture required $3.2 million from rentals. It made $3.9 million in the end. Although it may not seem like much now, it is equivalent to around $38 million when converted to today's currency. It was seen as a success considering the film was made hastily with the main purpose of maintaining the TV show's interest. Viewers got exactly what they desired from the film. A larger-than-life Batman, gadgets, villains, and brightly colored sets. Extraordinary events that would go on to become ingrained in popular culture were also bestowed upon them. Some of these scenes were so powerful that they remain the most memorable parts of the film to this day. The meaning of Batman 66 and the reasons for its enduring popularity were elucidated by them. Of all the times, which ones counted the most? Here is a rundown of the top 13 moments from Batman 66, beginning with the opening sequence's effective tone setting. The most memorable scenes from the film, the opening titles, gave viewers a sneak peek at what they may expect. They swung around with enthusiasm, color, and a jazzy vibe. Each of the four villains' themes was interwoven with Batman's theme musically. This was clearly a Batman film adaptation. The style was utterly 1960s, and the Technicolor Bondian vibe was killer. Then the terrifying gang of Joker, Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman were shown to the public. The only time viewers ever seen all four primary villains in one story was in this one, as well as elevating the film's overall quality. The Penguin, played by Burgess Meredith, was the most memorable villain. On paper, he may have appeared to be the weakest villain, but his performance elevated him to group leader. Particularly when he pretended to be Commodore Schmidlap, his false English accent stuck out. A lot of people still quote his humorous phrase, "Why don't you take me there?" Another standout was Lee Meriwether's performance as Catwoman. Not only was she alluring, but she was also aggressive. This was particularly true in the big reveal when Batman learned Miss Kitka was actually Catwoman. Naturally, Adam West's magnetic presence carried the film. He even had more screen time than normal playing Bruce Wayne. His fan favorite, albeit cheesy, romantic outing with Kitka revealed a new side of the character. Then the cars and devices arrived. Two new Batcraft, the Batboat and the Batcycle, were unveiled in the film. There was a unique theme song for each car, which amplified the fun. Soared from the Batcopter, Batboat zipped by, and Batcycle rolled in with panache. Even the bad guys had their own arsenal of machines, just like the good guys. In Batman canon, you'll find references to Penguin's submarine and his flying umbrellas. An additional strength was music. The distinctive and campy energy of Batman was matched by Nelson Riddle's score. Particularly the songs associated with the Batcopter and Batboat are still popular among fans today. At that point, the two most renowned scenes arrived. As he races about with a massive bomb, Batman mutters what is likely the most cited line in the entire film. "Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb." Who could ever forget the incident with the shark? When a shark attacks Batman while he's dangling from a ladder, the superhero quickly retrieves his bat shark repelling spray. It was completely absurd. It went too far. What audiences adored, though, was precisely that. Everything was finally resolved in the climax. The epic battle atop Penguin's submarine was exciting and entertaining. When Batman finally learned Kitka was actually Catwoman, it was like a James Bond movie climax, full of flying fists, tumbling enemies, and even grief. By the same token, Batman 66 was bright, humorous, and entertaining, but it also had a lot of tiny flaws, as are most hastily produced films. Continuity mistakes that stood out. Several of the most significant ones were mistakes in continuity. In the first scene of the film, when Batman is attacked by a shark, Robin offers him the renowned bat spray that repels sharks. Robin is shown in one picture hanging precariously over Batman. However, Robin abruptly vanishes from view the second Batman sprays the air. The fans immediately saw the lack of logic. Another issue arises in the same scene at around the 9-minute mark. As if Batman and Robin were suddenly closer or farther apart, the distance between them changes between pictures. Penguin hops in the Batmobile with Batman and Robin later on in the film, at about the 1 hour and 10-minute mark. It is easy to see him sitting behind Robin in the close-ups. When the car seems to stall in the long shot, though, the Penguin has magically shifted positions and is now sitting between Robin and Batman. Since the Batmobile lacked a rear seat, this was obviously not going to happen. At approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes into the submarine episode, there is yet another error. You could expect the sub to come up very wet once Batman compels it to surface. However, the submarine appears to be totally dry a few moments later as the Batboat approaches. In the film's final moments, Batman and Robin replenish the fluids of the UN Security Council members. The test tubes and the people sitting on them are plainly visible at the beginning of the scenario, but in the subsequent images, they just disappear. The film may still be enjoyable despite these little flaws, which only serve to enhance its charmingly campy approach. Maintaining continuity, however, wasn't the sole issue. There were also factual flaws in the picture, mistakes in fact that were illogical. The film was full of farce and absurdity, yet there were several clumsy decisions that had little to do with style. The tale became ridiculous, even for a comic book, due to these factual mistakes. Approximately 29 minutes into the show, Batman reveals that the US Navy sold the Penguin a pre-atomic submarine. However, the identical submarine fires a Polaris missile at a later time. Polaris missiles could not be fired by pre-atomic submarines, including diesel-powered ones. Nuclear submarines were the sole possessors of such a weapon. Following that came the Batcopter scene. The film depicted the Penguin sub's Polaris missile destroying the Batcopter's tail rotor as it was launched toward the aircraft. The Batcopter flipped over and dove headfirst into the water. However, in actual flight, a tail rotor failure would not cause the helicopter to lose control. On the contrary, it would whirl around wildly. This was obvious as a mistake to observers with keen eyes. The Batcopter's introductory sequences also featured an additional mistake. Its turn signals were in the wrong direction. At all times, the color green should be on the starboard side, while the color red should be on the port side. They violated a basic aviation regulation by being switched in the film. The movie's attempts at grand spectacle were marred by these slip-ups. which demonstrated how it occasionally disregarded reality. However, factual mistakes persisted. It seemed as though the crew hadn't given some of the errors much consideration. They were simply strange. Casual errors and graphical gaffes. The film's funniest gaffes were sometimes entirely at random. For example, Batman foresees the enemy trying to take the Batmobile while riding with the Penguin and uses knockout gas. However, Batman was unable to determine the precise whereabouts of the Batcycle. The Batcycle, however, was concealed and waiting at the precise location where the gas attack occurred. It was almost unbelievable how easy it was. Coming up next, the shark assault. Considering how long Batman kept the shark chewing his leg, his tights should have been torn or stained with blood, but his suit stayed intact. The fact that a portion of the bat ladder appeared to be within the shark's mouth added insult to injury. The rope ought to have been bitten through if such were the case, yet Batman persisted in climbing. Wrinkles in the sky, resembling a play curtain, were observed during the submarine battle later in the film. Waves crashing against it might be visible. This gave the impression that the water was more of a theatrical set than anything else. At approximately 57 minutes, during the villain's usage of the dehydrator, there was yet another audio error. Despite the fact that the Riddler's mouth was motionless, his laughter could be made out. Beyond that, the film crew unwittingly became an integral part of the production. Approximately 12 minutes into the bomb sequence, Batman dashes past a pair of nuns, as a neighboring window reveals the team and equipment reflected inside. At about the 4-minute mark, while the Batcopter is being retrieved from the hangar, the camera crew can be plainly seen reflected in the windshield. The camera pans down at the 20-minute mark to reveal the Batboat taking off with Batman and Robin, followed by the spinning rotors of the filming helicopter. When Batman and Robin get to the buoy at 22 minutes, the sky's wrinkles will be apparent once again. Everyone who was paying attention could see these mistakes. However, the film had more serious story problems than just those involving props and reflections. Mistakes with the plot and the characters. Among Batman's 60 SIXS problems were plot flaws. When Batman and Robin examine the buoy for fingerprints, one of the most significant moments occurs. They shouldn't be surprised to see prints there because everyone knows the 4 culprits wore gloves. At the 31-minute mark, Batman and Robin decipher 2 of the Riddler's puzzles, illuminating Catwoman's role in the scheme. But then, the revelation comes as a shock to them and Commissioner Gordon. Despite the fact that the idea of the 4 villains working together has been broached previously in the film, a magnet securing their utility belts traps Batman and Robin on the buoy at around the 27-minute mark. A porpoise will give its life to protect its young from an oncoming torpedo. Batman and Robin quickly regain control of the Batboat and make their getaway in the subsequent scene, although the film omits any explanation of how they managed to escape the magnet. Miss Kitka poses the most important question later on. It is clear from the conversation that Batman and Robin had already apprehended Catwoman. Even though she varies very little in look when she assumes the identity of Kitka, no one recognizes her. The film reaches its 9th minute when another character mistake occurs. Batman claims, a yacht simply can't disappear during a post-shark press conference. Inadvertently, he gives Robin the credit for something he said himself. Last but not least, the Riddler is shown launching a Polaris missile during the submarine sequence that begins at around 1 hour and 24 minutes. The awkwardness of the moment is accentuated when he fails to catch one of them. The film was still entertaining despite these mistakes, which only served to heighten its eccentric, campy aura. And then there were the obvious mistakes. During the final submarine battle, one of the most glaring errors managed to slip through. Catwoman forces Batman to jump into the ocean, but there's already another Batman waiting for him when he reaches the waves. It appeared as though the production had prematurely set up a stuntman, resulting in 2 Batmans appearing in the same shot. Sometime later, as the Batmobile makes its way into Bronson Canyon to deliver the Penguin to the Batcave, a shot is captured from the hood. Actually, there was a way out of that tunnel. Despite the production's best efforts, sunlight still manages to peek through the holes. The last battle on the submarine deck, which takes place at 1 hour and 30 minutes into the game, looks staged because the sky backdrop has creases in it. Batman and Robin dash across the street even earlier, at approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. However, a Corvette convertible passenger smiles, waves, and stares directly at the camera team. It shattered the illusion entirely. The rope that controls the plastic shark becomes visible at around the 8-minute mark as Robin descends to assist Batman in his battle with the shark. Plus, the 4 antagonists are depicted in the film's teaser at approximately the 12-minute mark. The crew could have saved time by reusing shots, but it would have made the scene seem less genuine. Audiences nonetheless had a good time watching the picture despite these mistakes, which only served to highlight how hastily it had been assembled. These were just the initial stages. Mistakes in the finer points. When the Penguin uses his umbrella to gas the security officers at around 1 hour and 17 minutes in, their reactions are different. A single guard fails to relax his arm at his side, despite the fact that it ought to be limp. Shortly after, the error is confirmed as the identical arm droops erratically. The camera tilts to provide the impression of swaying at around 1 hour and 28 minutes during the submarine attack. However, the bad guys disregard gravity and roll in the opposite direction. Robin takes the bat ladder down from the Batcopter at the 6-minute mark. He releases it by pressing a button. However, in the subsequent scene, Batman is shown manually releasing it before it plummets. To anyone paying attention, this seemingly minor inconsistency stood out. Around the 21-minute mark, Robin asserts that, while searching for fingerprints, he and Batman are the sole individuals on the ocean. But there's another ship whizzing by in the distance. At the 47-minute mark, an assassin targets Bruce Wayne in Kitka's apartment. The Riddler's twin is visible in practically every battle scene, while the Jokers and Penguins are the most blatantly noticeable. You may observe the rope raising the steam-powered Batpole lift about the 38-minute mark. Plus, despite Penguin's warning, some blue powder spills over at 59 minutes while Catwoman is filling bottles with dehydrated henchmen, and it misses entirely. Be cautious. Be very careful. There is a mother for each of them. There appears to be a massive hole in the shark's body, but even during the 8-minute shark attack sequence, water continues to come out in buckets. These parts detracted from the authenticity. On the other hand, they reinforced the particular campiness of the film. Much if these slip-ups amused the more perceptive viewers, other slip-ups exposed much more issues on production. False starts, imposters, and impossible decisions. Stunt doubles were used throughout the film. However, they were overly noticeable at several points. About 11 minutes into the film, Batman and Robin get on the Batcycle, but their stunt doubles are plain to see. After a man says it's comforting to know the heroes are doing their jobs, doubles appear again around the 5-minute mark in the Batcopter. A henchman and Batman each employ wrenches at exactly 1 hour and 30 minutes into the submarine combat, but the wrenches twist and curl when they touch the deck, making them useless. In an instant, the heavy weapon Phantasm vanishes. Similarly, Batman throws a punch in the middle of the fight, but nobody is blocking his path. It is evident that he failed to hit his target as his fist slices through the air. As Batman's cape flies away, another picture reveals a tear in the rear of his outfit. Approximately 24 minutes into the game, Batman screws a panel on the buoy, but he twists the screwdriver the wrong way, making it tighten instead of loosen. The other villains are attacked by Catwoman's cat, Hecate, at the 15-minute mark. A snarling cat appears in one shot. The cat sits serenely in the next photo, as if nothing has transpired. As the submarine battle heats up at 1 hour and 28 minutes, a few goons dive headfirst into the ocean and manage to escape unharmed. Robin is gently shoved before the man in the green shirt and black cap jumps overboard. If you tap the Riddler with a gun turret, he will run off the edge by himself. Batman engages in a sword fight with the Penguin, but it is immediately apparent that the stunt double-playing Batman is significantly heavier than Adam West. Not only that, Burt Ward is dwarfed by Robin's duplicate as they rappel down to the villain's lair. Curious looks were given even to Bruce Wayne's dive into the water. He took a risky dive that might have fractured his neck by diving headfirst. No heroic figure with Batman's training would ever have dared to do it. While these incidents did add up, they demonstrated that the film was entertaining. It was far from perfect. The most shocking error, though, was a sequence that viewers were never even seen. That censored scene. The audience loved the bright set's campy humor, even the mistakes, during Batman 66. However, there was one scene that was omitted from the final version and was buried for many years. Batman and Robin take to the skies in the Batcopter at 5 minutes into the flick. They go by a tower whose rooftop is occupied by bikini-clad women. Upon spotting the Batcopter, the women start to bounce around with joy. However, a bikini top falls off one of the ladies midway through that scene. For an instant, the camera reveals her bust. In 1966, this was not appropriate for a film aimed at families. The segment was swiftly censored and never screened in theaters. Fans were completely unaware of this moment for almost 60 years. Although it was clearly visible, it turned out to be one of the film's most peculiar surprises. Despite its intended lightheartedness, the studio swiftly deleted the scene of ladies waving at Batman. For a long time, this fragment of footage only served to heighten the mystique and lore surrounding Batman 66. The story of Batman 66 was great, but what really set it apart was its impact and longevity. Public awareness of it remained high from the time of its 1971 television airing all the way through its home video distribution. Over the years, it was rediscovered by each new generation. Available on video cassette, DVD, and, subsequently, Blu-ray. For the more seasoned fans, it was a nostalgic blast. It gave a younger audience an opportunity to view Batman in a new light. Lively, humorous, and brimming with charisma. Nobody ever intended for the movie to be taken seriously. The point was that it made the show's best qualities even more apparent to viewers. However, it was those remarkable moments, the kind that brought a grin to people's faces even decades later, that really kept people talking. It delivered on all of our expectations for Batman and more, as one renowned fan put it after rewatching it. Despite all the fun and spectacle, the film was hiding something. The camera didn't capture every single occasion without raising some eyebrows. There were some awkward moments, some that were too chaotic, and one scenario that was thought to be excessive. How do you feel about the numerous errors and blunders in the 1966 Batman film? Do they enhance the viewing experience or detract from its enchantment? Leave a comment with your ideas. Be sure to press that like button, subscribe, and keep watching for more amazing stories from the fascinating history of Hollywood. Until we meet again.